Hey, welcome everybody to RiverPalooza. I'm so glad you're here. As Megan said, you are supporting this by just being here, by just being a voice and being present. As Megan said, I grew up in this area. I was 1957 when I was 5 years old. So do the math and you'll figure out how old I am. But I grew up right downtown, driving my bike to work at the Lyric Theater and watching movies. I lived on a Boston whaler. I love this river and I love this area. I went away to college, Merchant Marine. I came back in 1978, been here since. And we've been fighting for this river ever since because we've gotten people together. And I first started to get a committee together to look at the St. Lucie estuary, which goes all the way up north, almost to Fort Pierce, all the way down south, all the way almost to Loxahatchee, and it is connected to Lake Okeechobee. So I'm going to explain to you, how did we get there? How did this happen? What is really difficult about understanding, when you look at Florida, you look at this big hole in the middle, that's Lake Okeechobee. And basically all the water south of Orlando flowed down from the Kissimmee and the upper chain of lakes down into Lake Okeechobee. And Lake Kissimmee is way up here by the upper chain of lakes, has a meandering river about 105 miles long and a 2-mile wide floodplain on either side. It used to take 6 to 8 months for the water to get from the upper chain of lakes south of Orlando and down to Lake Okeechobee. Lake Okeechobee is a very shallow lake. It's very big, 730 square miles, but it used to flood to the south, and you can see this 60-mile wide floodplain that used to go south of Lake Okeechobee all the way to the south tip of Florida. That took about 16 months to get there. 1 mile every 4 days. Used to travel very slowly in what's known as the River of Grass. You've heard the River of Grass. It's a very shallow, about 1 foot deep river that used to flow south. So we had this meandering river, the Kissimmee, we had Lake Okeechobee, and then we have this river. Well, over the years, a lot of things happened. People tried to develop Florida. In the turn of the century, 1911, we actually paid people from the state to come down here and drain the swamp. We looked at the Everglades and said, that's a valueless swamp. We want to drain it, get rid of it. So people built canals. They drained it out to the Atlantic Ocean and out to the Gulf of Mexico, and they started to drain the lake. Well, 2 hurricanes came, 1926, 1928, came across the state, and killed about 2,500 people around the lake. So they authorized the Hoover Dike, which is the Hoover Dike, goes all the way around Lake Okeechobee, about 35 feet high. And so they controlled the lake, and they built the canal, rebuilt the canal, St. Lucie Canal, which comes right here to the South Fork, in 1916 to 1926. And then after the dike was built, they rebuilt it in 1937 to be the outlet, along with the Caloosahatchee over to the west coast. Those two are the big outlets going east and west to control Lake Okeechobee. So when they get the hurricane season, June 1st, they get that lake down real low, and they want to discharge it east and west. And that set up a whole area south of the lake that, remember, used to be real fertile land, lots of peat and muck, is now the Everglades agricultural area. This 700,000 acres is mostly sugarcane, about 480,000 acres of sugarcane farmed south of the lake. We also channelized the Kissimmee River. We channelized the river by digging a ditch right up the middle of the oxbows and drained all the floodplain. So remember, in 6 to 8 months it used to take water. Now it takes 3 days, 2 to 3 days. They get rain up here, we get it in Lake Okeechobee, and now it has nowhere to go south. It can only go east and west, okay? So we've drained the swamp, we've dammed the lake, and we've killed the rivers. We killed the Kissimmee River, we've killed the St. Lucie River, and the Caloosahatchee River, and we've killed the River of Grass, which used to flow south. So now you got it. We've drained the swamp, we've dammed the lake, and we've killed the rivers. So what are we going to do now? We've got to fix things. This was done for flood control back in 1948 by the Corps of Engineers in the Water District, and it's still under flood control management. They still realize, we now realize how damaging this is all happening to this estuary every time we discharge water east and west. So we've got to fix it. We've got to come to a point where we've got to demand a solution to this. A A lot of us in the environmental community have worked years to try to get the agencies together, to try to get understanding together. The River Keepers, Rivers Coalition, we've actually pulled all our groups together in 1998 and formed a Rivers Coalition because it got so bad back then when the lake went up to 18 feet, they were discharging from April through almost November. It was super bad back then. And it's super bad now, and we've got to fix it. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable at all. You've got to demand response. So how are we going to fix it? Plan 6, the only fix. Basically, here's the historical flow. Remember, it's from the Kissimmee, winding down all the way down the River Grass. Here's what we got now, all these discharges. See the big arrows east and west? That's the way they control the floodwaters, get it east and west. Now we got to get it south. No flows east, no flows west. We got to get it south to the Everglades, where it used to go. So this is those big red arrows got to go south, and we got to go through the Everglades agricultural area. But we're not going to take all the sugar land. We just need some sugar land right through here. So all the people in Clewiston, you're not going to lose your job. All your farmers, don't get upset. Just come to the table and work with us to get this flowway. We already own the south portion of that, and we just need the rest of it up north. So I want everybody to do, we got to do these things. We got to contact, and you've heard this, contact your congressmen and your state legislatures. Well, this is what you got to tell them. You got to tell the congressman, we want the Corps of Engineers to work on Plan 6 now. You got to tell the state representatives that we want the district, the water management district, to work on Plan 6 now. We don't want to wait another 10 or 20 years to get this fixed. We want to work on it now. We want to work on Plan 6 when? Now! All right. Thank you all for being supportive. Help us out. All right.